You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to N2K Cyberwire's Hacking Humans podcast, where each week we look behind the social engineering scams, phishing schemes, and criminal exploits that are making headlines and taking a heavy toll on organizations around the world. I'm Maria Varmazes, dusting off my Dave Bittner impression yet again, as he is in transit.
You do that a lot lately.
I do. It's okay. It's all right. And he's in transit back from a busy RSAC, so we wish him safe travels on his way back. And with me is, as always, the one and only Joe Carrigan. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Maria.
Hi. And we have some interesting stories to share with our listeners this week. We got a lot of listener feedback, not just because I was gone. I appreciate people saying they missed me.
I missed you.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. People are really responding to a lot of the stories we've been covering, and I had to choose of the many emails we've been receiving. All nice, by the way. Thank you. This one I wanted to respond to because it was about one of my stories. So I'm being selfish. And it starts this way. Hi, Dave, Joe, and Maria. Let me start by saying how much I love the Hacking Human podcast. Thank you. For me, it's a perfect blend of drama and comedy based on real stories. It makes my commute far less miserable. That's very nice to hear. Thank you. Also, apologies in advance for any mistakes in English. It's not my first language, and therefore I use an AI LLM to revise it below. Thumbs up. Smart idea. I wanted to share some thoughts on Maria's story from episode 335, When AI Lies, Hackers Rise. That was from April 24th this year, about scammers using fake banking apps to trick sellers with phony payment screens. Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Here in the UK, yes, this was an interesting one, and I was feeling a little bit outside my lane because I'm not UK based, as people might be able to surmise from my accent. So,
right.
But thankfully this listener is, so he can clue us in a little bit. And he said, here in the UK, most high street banks have been using the faster payments service for a while now, which means payments typically arrive within seconds, even between different banks. That sounds nice. This could have helped the seller in that story verify the funds before handing over the goods. Additionally, many banks have recently introduced a check payee function. When making a bank transfer, you may enter the name of the person or business along with the account number and sort code. The system then checks for a match, full, partial, or no match. On a few occasions, I've mistyped the name and received a warning, which prompted me to double check with the recipient. And you can still choose to proceed even with a no match, but it's a useful extra layer of fraud prevention. And there is a campaign here called Stop Think Fraud. And I try to stay cautious with online payments, but I can absolutely see how fake apps or screenshots can mislead sellers or anyone. It reminds me of a story from an acquaintance whose e-bike was stolen. Oh yeah, the bike thieves are just brutal. The police couldn't help much. That is a familiar story. So he kept checking Facebook Marketplace and similar apps. A few days later, he spotted his bike listed for sale. He had the nerve to convince the seller, who gave vague answers about the bike's origin, to accept a bank transfer instead of cash. He then used one of those fake banking app simulators to trick the thief into handing over the bike. A bold move, and lucky the thief didn't check their account until later. All right. And I have to say, he goes on to say, I completely agree with Joe. There you go, Joe. When it comes to these kinds of transactions, cash is king. Yep. And it says, cheers from Jose, who is not Spanish but Portuguese, in case we try to pronounce his name. So, Jose, thank you. I love that when you're turning the tables on a bike thief with the fake banking app simulator.
I can't remember where I saw this, but somebody said that they their bike was stolen and they saw it pop up on like Facebook Marketplace or something. And they went to they reached out to the seller who was the thief. And, they said, where'd you get the bike? And how long ago did you buy it? All this kind of stuff.
From your backyard.
They show up and they meet and the guy goes, can I take it for a test ride? And the seller goes, sure. And he just rides home with it.
Zoidberg's off with his bike.
Right. He was just gone.
Gone. Honestly, that's bold, but I love that. I mean, you're going to know how your own bike works.
Right.
I know in my neck of the woods in the Cambridge, or I'm not in Cambridge anymore in Massachusetts, I'm further out, but back when I was closer to that area, bike thieves are rampant. And sometimes the police would actually help people if they're doing a sting. going, hey, I found my bike on Craigslist. I want to get it back. And sometimes the police have been known to help in situations like that. So, please be careful because some of these bike thieves are definitely, they can be dangerous. But I gotta give people credit using the fake apps to trick the thieves at their own game. That is very clever. So
that's
can't
awesome.
Be mad about that. That is awesome. Well, thanks, Jose, for your very, very sweet feedback and for the very helpful context on the story. So thank you for writing in. All right. So, Joe, you said you also have some feedback. Feedback and follow-up. Yeah, go for it.
I saw something. This is just something I didn't think was good enough to be a story, but I wanted to talk about it. I saw this. I don't remember where I saw it, but it made absolute sense to me. It was one guy in something that looked like the Mythbusters prop room. You ever seen Mythbusters where you go in there and
I ever seen Mythbusters? One of my favorite TV shows of all time. Yes, I have seen Mythbusters. Yes.
where they take you into, I think it's Jamie Heinemann's company, the production company, or maybe it's Adams. I don't know. It's one of their companies. And, they just got all this stuff they've made and it's like props from everywhere. And, they go, oh, if we need this, we have it over here. And it's stacked literally floor to ceiling in a warehouse.
And meticulously organized too, which always just makes me go, wow. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Which makes me think it was Jamie and not necessarily Adams.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. I was like, that has to be Jamie. Yep.
Right. But anyway, it's in a place like this, and this guy goes, let me show you this. And he picks up like this 50-pound dumbbell and just hands it to the guy with one hand. And the guy goes, what is this? And he picks it up and he's holding it. And he says, this weighs next to nothing. This is nothing. He goes, yeah, I know. And it's a fake dumbbell. And, and then he says, well, you know how like when you're drinking out of a empty coffee mug, you can tell the coffee mug's fake by the way it moves. And that's because of the amount of water that's missing, fluids is missing from the coffee cup. So we have this, and he hands him an 80-pound dumbbell. He says, this actually weighs 15 pounds. So it is actually a weight that you can move. And it looks like you're actually putting effort into moving a weight. Your muscles will flex. It's what social media influencers use for their fitness videos.
Get out.
Yes. I was like, I can't believe that, because I've seen people like squatting with huge racks of barbells, and I'm like, how are they doing that? It's fake. That's how they're doing it.
That's how they're doing it.
And I feel like an idiot for not knowing that going in.
I just wouldn't. Yeah, I'm with you though, because I wouldn't think influencers would put in the effort to fake it. I don't know what. Now I'm saying that out loud. I'm going, of course they wouldn't, Maria. Like, why wouldn't they? But for some reason, I just figure they're just, ordinary people just using the actual stuff they do and not going, I want to figure out how to fake this. That's just so much more work than just doing the real thing. I don't know. My laziness is saying, why would you do that?
I mean, I guess because you can demonstrate to people, look, I can curl 80 pounds for 5 sets of 16, and that's pretty heavy feat, right?
That's pretty heavy. Yeah.
But you're not doing it. You're doing 15 pounds for. So, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. This just goes along with the whole. Don't believe everything you see on the internet, of course, but really think about what you're watching in these social media influencers and what they're trying to do to your brain to get you to follow them, and they're faking a lot of it. I hate to generalize, because maybe there are some guys out there. I don't go looking for fitness videos. Anybody who looks at me will say, there's a guy that doesn't watch fitness videos on his phone.
See, Tae Bo, you couldn't fake that back when that was a thing. You do it like actually doing the aerobic body weight exercises. I don't think you can fake that, but weights.
Billy Banks, right?
Yeah.
Was that who it was?
Oh my gosh, no. I just remember Tae Bo guy. I'm going to get listener comments now that I don't remember. It was a while ago. Please don't sue me. I don't remember.
I think his name was Billy Banks.
Probably Billy Banks. That sounds about right. I just don't remember. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's not in the memory. It's not in the memory banks. Anyway, that fascinating. As I said, as I was saying it out loud, I was kind of going, of course it would be fake, but yeah, I'm with you. It never would have occurred to me. So that's interesting.
It never had occurred to me, which is why I felt like an idiot.
Well, you and me both. We're idiots together today. It's fine. It's because Dave's not here. That's the reason. Dave would have caught that immediately. So there you go. We miss you, Dave.
And now, a few thoughts from our sponsors at ThreatLocker. The tactics used by cybercriminals are becoming more and more advanced every day. The shift from a default allow approach to a default deny is more critical than ever. This is where ThreatLocker comes in. Stay tuned for how ThreatLocker allow listing and ring fencing has your back.
Okay, let us move on to the stories now. All right, looks like I'm starting off today. So my story, Joe, comes from James Coker from Info Security Magazine. And this is a little flavor on a scam that we've talked about in the past. This one is specifically subscription scam campaigns, and it comes by way of Bitdefender research. And they're talking about physical subscription or mystery boxes being scams. Now, these are very, very popular. They've been popular for quite some time, these like monthly or quarterly subscription boxes. I get ads for these all the time, and I'm not even on Facebook anymore, where, you sign up for like a monthly snack thing or, travel around the world with this mystery box. You don't know what country it's going to be, and you'll get some yummy snacks or whatever. I'm not saying that company seems to be legit, but there's a lot of pretty much any vertical you can think of. There's some sort of sophisticated or semi-sophisticated monthly subscription box that you can sign up for, and you don't know what you're going to get in the mail, but it's sort of like a delight, like giving yourself a little present. I guess that's
right.
Sort of
it's a loot box.
It's a loot box. That is exactly what it is, and hopefully there's no mimic inside. But usually it's an actual.
The mimic is on the outside.
Yeah, that's well. It's the whole thing is the creature. Now my husband's gonna come running in. He's gonna be like, "Well, actually," all my D&D friends are going. Anyway, these mystery boxes are unsurprisingly rife for scamming, and a number of fake websites have been cropping up that do mimic legitimate websites. And personally, just speaking only for myself, even the legitimate ones can be a little confusing. Maybe this is just me officially getting old, but sometimes I go to these websites and I'm trying to figure out what the heck am I actually buying? And maybe that's by design. But the fake ones capitalize on that sense of at least me being confused. And they're trying to sell you shoes or electronics or clothes or even investments. I don't know how that would work, but investments in a mystery monthly
that
loot
sounds like
box.
a terrible investment idea.
Yeah, I was like, you don't know what investment you're going to be bought into. We're just going to YOLO this. I don't really understand, but okay, fooling their money are soon parted, I suppose.
Yes.
But the idea behind this is, as you can probably imagine, Joe, is just to steal the credit card info. So it's kind of an elaborate fish.
Right.
Essentially tricking users into signing up for a monthly subscription that presumably you will never actually receive, steal your credit card info, and then just hope you forget that you signed up for this, or at least for a few months so they can get your money, or before you talk to a credit card company and say, actually, that was a scam. Right. But yeah, we have talked about apps, like mobile apps. I think that was a story that Dave did some time ago about mobile apps that you sign up for and then you can't figure out how to unsubscribe, and they sort of fly under the radar for a while, hoping that you forget to unsubscribe.
Yeah, it's like $7 a month for a mobile app.
Yeah, and you've just completely forgotten that.
Yeah, and that's there's a threshold where you won't make a concerted effort to unsubscribe. Like if I'm getting hit $50 a month for a subscription service to nothing, I'm canceling.
You'll feel that for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. But
$7?
We've talked about the wine club I was in Texas for a number of years.
It's funny. I just signed up for a wine club, but I can verify that I actually got wine. So
I got my wine too. I just had to go down to Texas to get it.
Well, nice little road trip.
Right.
But yeah, the cup of a Starbucks coffee or something. Maybe people will hope that you forget that you signed up for this.
Exactly.
So yeah, the small upfront cost, and it hooks the user usually in a sneaky way into recurring payments that they don't know that they've signed up for a subscription. And the same time, you've given up your personal and financial data to sign up for this. And the websites pull a lot of interesting strings to try and fake out that they're legitimate. Apparently, they do a sort of things to verify that the user is real, that the customer is real.
Really?
To make it seem like we have a threshold. We, as the scammer, we want to make sure that you, the customer, are not going to try and hook us. So are you actually a real customer? Because obviously, if we were a scam, we wouldn't care if you were real or not. So this is how you know we're real.
Right.
And of course, they make sure that the fine print is extremely fine and that the subscriptions are, really, really, really hard to cancel and that you don't even recognize that this is a recurring cost. Joe, I want you to guess what social media platform is being exploited for this.
Okay, I'm going to guess.
It might rhyme with Mace Hook.
That's a tough one now. I was going to go with Facebook, but you said Mace Hook. I
Mace
guess that
Hook,
rhymes.
yeah. Does it rhyme? Book of Faces,
Right.
yeah. Ding, ding, ding. Right, big surprise, right? They do leverage Facebook pages that maybe they bought on the black market that were legitimate and then got taken over by scammers, or where they harvest likes, that kind of thing. We've talked about that bazillions of times.
Yeah, I've seen that happen numerous times.
Oh yeah, it happens all the time. It's amazing, and it's just when you see those pages pop up and you can tell that they're actively garnering like as many likes and comments as possible. You just know how many months is it going to be until suddenly their name has changed and they're doing something drastically different.
Right.
It's like clockwork. It's amazing. These scammy pages also use paid ads. Big surprise, because those ads are cheap. They're just micro pennies, like just fragments of pennies to pay for. They sometimes impersonate legitimate content creators to boost legitimacy. I think we've talked about that. Some YouTube creators with some significant followers got impersonated for some scammy stuff like this. So what people might consider like a small potato personality being impersonated to give something like this legitimacy is very interesting to me. And Bitdefender says over 200 fake sites in this vein were traced to one address in Cyprus, of all places. Just like, we covered a story on the Cyberwire today also about something else scammy going on in Cyprus. What is going on, aside from really nice beaches, in Cyprus and tax offshoring? Apparently scams. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, well, that's what happened with Isle of Man as well. They had a whole scam company move into Isle of Man because it's kind of like a tax haven. So I don't know, I'm all in favor of tax havens, right? But not scam havens.
Not a scam haven. Yes, Cyprus. Right. It's twice in one day. And now I'm going, what is going on there? One thing, there are a couple of things about this. So not a lot of this is, very, very different from a lot of the scams we've talked about. There were some little details that I thought were interesting. One was, in order to evade malicious ad detection that presumably Facebook deploys, the scammers actually use multiple ad versions of their scams, but like one of many is malicious and the others show random harmless products. So it's sort of like a roulette of if you actually... Yeah, and that I'm just going, that's a lot of extra work. But I suppose, again, if it's really cheap to run these ads and you're casting a super wide net, I guess the economies of scale is if 1 out of, 5 is actually scammy, you will catch somebody. And the images...
Yeah, but that's going to be like an 80% reduction in your exposure. I mean, it must be so cheap for these ads that's inconsequential.
That's the thing, isn't it? That just tells you how cheap it is, indeed.
Right.
And the ads are also, this is not a big surprise, often image only, so there's no text. And they will weirdly crop the images to defeat pattern detection. And I got to say, when you see a weirdly cropped image, that usually for me as a human is a tell that this is scammy.
Right.
When you see like it way off center. But I guess it fools the algorithms that Facebook has. So that is interesting. This is yet another flavor of the scam that we've been talking about for some time. And my question is always, do they actually receive anything in the mail? And I couldn't find an answer to that. My bet is that they do not, but it would be especially confusing if they did. So if anyone knows, if they've gotten ensnared by one of these mystery box scams, have you actually received anything? I would be very curious to know. But I have a feeling the answer to that one's no.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think this is, get what you can and get out. And that's the MO here. So I would be surprised if they actually got anything. That would mean more effort for this scam than they've already put into it, which is actually
there's a lot of effort in this one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it would be very interesting. But let us know if you've encountered this. I'd be very curious. Anyway, all right. So that was my story. Joe, it is your turn next. Tell me what you've got for today.
I've got a story from the New York Times from Michael Gold and Cecilia Kang. And perhaps you've heard about this, But this is about the House of Representatives in the U.S. here passed a bill to ban sharing of revenge porn and also non-consensual sharing of artificially generated images.
So like deep fake porn.
Yes. Like deep fake. Well, deep fake porn. But I don't know that that the deep fake part is focused on just the illicit images, the inappropriate images. So,
okay.
And we'll get to that in this discussion. But we'll put a link in the show notes to the New York Times article, the actual text of the bill that I have. It covers deep fakes and images you may have sent in the past. The Senate passed this unanimously back in February, which is rare to get a bill that is this.
Wow, I have not heard Senate unanimously anything in years. Okay, wow, okay.
Right. There were 409 votes for this bill in the House of Representatives and 2 votes against it, and 24 people that were no votes, meaning that they didn't vote.
Okay, they weren't there or whatever.
They weren't there, or they were going to abstain or something. So, before you jump on the 2 people that voted against this, there are people who are opposed to this bill, like the Electronic Frontier Foundation has an article on. They call it the Take It Down. Congress passes the Take It Down Act. Oh, and by the way, you should look at the text of the bill because Take It Down is actually an acronym. Let me pull this up because this I get more and more convinced every single time that Congress is wasting my money with a department of acronyms. Tools to address known exploitation by immobilizing technological deepfakes on Web and Networks Act. Take It Down Act.
Kidding me?
No.
So if you heard me shriek, it's when the page loaded, and I was like, you have got to be joking that that's an acronym. Okay. That is a bugaboo of mine, especially in the space world, because they also do terrible acronyms like this. And wow. Wow, we could just spend the whole episode about that, honestly, but we won't.
Let's not focus on that.
Let's not focus on that. Yeah.
That's really not the important part.
My goodness. Yeah.
The fear is the position of the Electronic Frontier Foundation is that this can be used like a very blunt tool to get people to take down things that to get platforms to take down things that people want, and particularly people in power. So one of the things the Electronic Frontier Foundation has said is that President Trump has already said, I'm going to use that to take down deep fakes of me, which may or may not be valid in terms of the context, right? But I think that if someone's using AI to make deep fakes of an elected official in a form of parody or some other satire or actual how can I say it, like serious, it's a slaps test, serious literary, artistic. I can't remember everything from my days in communications classes in college, but there is a standard for this.
It's the I knew it when I see it.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Yeah,
but it's
I know what you mean. Yep.
It's serious literary and political standing maybe. But I think if you're making AI generated memes of pick your least favorite political person and put their name there, I think that's fine. I don't think that's what the intent of this law is for, but the Electronic Frontiers Foundation is that it's says that it could be used for that, and particularly in the same way that copyright, Digital Millennium Copyright Act, has caused a lot of things to be banned from platforms, even though they fall under fair use, because these companies are not going to take the time to examine every single case as a fair use case. Now,
right, they're going to just react first, and then it can get that tool can be abused.
And I see the point for abuse, but I also see that particularly with the revenge the revenge porn aspect of this, that is clearly designed in here, clearly delineated in here. So it's not something, these are, we're going to talk about that part in a minute, but that is, if you have some images of an ex something or other, whatever, right? You're going to have to pay a fine and maybe spend up to 2 years in prison if you publish these things. And if it's a minor, 3 years. 3 years in prison.
Okay.
The Digital Forgery Act, because it doesn't specifically talk about, I haven't done a full read on this, but I can see this being used for those, like those fake Keanu Reeves ads. Remember where Keanu Reeves is holding up a T-shirt and they just put whatever it is. Now this gives
Brad
someone
Pitt
like
trying to sell you an air fryer. Yeah. Yep.
Right. Exactly. Someone like Keanu Reeves and Brad Pitt a way to control their image. And I'm not here to advocate for the rights of rich and famous celebrities, but earlier in your story you mentioned the unpopular YouTuber, or the little known YouTuber. What about that guy or that girl who have like a small following and somebody's targeting their audience, right? This is not somebody with millions of dollars. I can see this being a real benefit to them. But
or just a person who just is the victim of revenge porn, who has zero, they're not an influencer or anything at all, just a regular person who's just has a very vindictive ex or something. Yeah.
Yeah, there are two different sections of this law, and the revenge porn part of this is pretty explicit, and the viguity comes into the AI portion, the AI generated image portion, and I think that's where a lot of the objections are happening. Now, Ars Technica has an article that heavily reads from this EFF article or statement, but I think Ars Technica does a really good job of presenting both sides of the issue here. They're talking about that the law doesn't seem to address like communication, but rather publication. So if you're sending images, artificially generated AI images from yourself, to a friend of yours. Hey, look, here's Keanu Reeves riding a buffalo down a hill off a ski jump. That's probably fine, right? But if you start publishing that, and maybe you're going to have an issue. But anyway, there is something I want to talk about here, and that is the issue of these images that that get used later in revenge porn. And my advice has always been, just don't share these kind of pictures with somebody. There are better ways to express your intimacy, but more importantly, you really have no control over any of this media once it leaves your phone. And you need to understand that in many cases, these things leave your phone almost immediately. Like my photos automatically back up to Google and to Microsoft. Don't forget about that. So
in my case, iCloud. Yeah, same.
Right. So, here's the thing. I trust my wife to the utmost, so much so that she actually gets to make decisions as to whether I live or die in certain situations, right? That's a pretty good level of trust. I would never send this kind of image to her, and not because I don't trust her, but because I don't trust anyone else in the channel. And anyone else on the other end of that channel as well, because the channel is just one part of it. But you got to think about it. You take a picture with your device. Do you trust your device manufacturer? Do you trust all the software on your device? Then you think about your cloud storage provider. Do you have the utmost trust in that organization? What about the developers that wrote the code that securely transmit your data? How do you know that that's all valid? What about the platform that owns the channel? Right? Like if we go back to Snapchat, remember when Snapchat was new? There was evidence that, or some reporting that suggested that they were holding on to images a lot longer than the they
weren't disappearing immediately.
Yeah, they were disappearing from the clients, but the servers still had the images.
Servers. Yep, right. I remember that. Yeah.
And then when you send it to somebody, what about their device, right? What about their cloud storage partners? And what about them? And that's really the last point. That's the focus of this law is just the recipient, right? But you've got to think that this law is really only addressing that one tiny piece of that process, the recipient. There are so many other moving parts in between you and the recipient that, frankly, I don't know about you, but I just find it difficult to trust that many people.
Yeah, and it's not even, no, I'm with you. I mean, Joe, it's not even a matter of like assuming bad intent necessarily. It's just breaches happen.
That's
even,
right.
Even if that provider does everything right, breaches do happen. So that is, I'm reflecting as you're saying this, and I think the nature of phones, especially being something that we keep in our pocket, and it gives people have a sense of privacy with them. This wasn't as much of an issue back when computers were sort of more of like a public shared device. I'm thinking of like the family computer was
right,
in a public part, center part of the house, that kind of a thing, or if you had one of those. And now, I think many people, especially younger folks who grew up with phones being so ubiquitous, they may not understand all those steps that you've described about how many intermediaries there are between you and the recipient of something. Yep. That hasn't either been communicated well or not as understood as maybe we would like. Maybe it's a bit of both. But it's having this small device that you can just keep in your pocket or bedside or whatever. It's easy to forget that it is it's private to you in a sense, but it's really public in a lot of other ways.
Yeah,
maybe
there are a lot of other
people.
That have their hands in it. A lot of people
listening in. Yeah.
What I like to say is,
but yeah,
companies like Google are very good at security, but security and privacy are two completely different things.
Amen to that. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and getting back to the bill itself. So, I echo that. Yeah, the best advice is to abstain from this kind of thing, but we know that people will do it. I mean, so it's all well and good for us to be like, just don't, but people are going to.
Yeah. People are going to.
And people are going to. So this bill, I feel very conflicted about, because my gut instinct is like, this is good. I'm very glad that this is happening because, especially in the U.S., we have very, very little protecting anybody from any of this.
Correct. Yeah, this is the first federal law that protects anybody from anything like this.
Anything. And I really need to emphasize, I know that states also have, in many cases, laws about this as well. My state of Massachusetts only passed a revenge porn law last year, which was, we could not believe how long that took. So many other countries, this might be like maybe a no-brainer, but we really don't have much in the U.S. protecting consumers in any way. So I can easily see on the EFF's argument, and they're very smart people who really understand this stuff and how it will be misused. I can absolutely see their argument about how there will be corner cases and abuse for this. And then I'm going, but on the other hand, we as consumers are pretty much left completely alone, and like there's nothing helping us.
And
so
when you start looking, you start looking at the damage that gets done to kids in this situation. There was one article that cited, I think it was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, talking about the psychological damage that gets done to young girls when their images are passed around, and that's a valid point. But the other one is the amount of young boys that have just killed themselves over things like this. Literally killed themselves.
Literally killed themselves. That's right.
And and I'm hopeful that this will provide an almost instantaneous way for them to stop that kind of thing from going on.
That's right. Yeah. I think, as I said, the EFF, I highly respect what they do, so I'm not trying to be like...
I'm not belittling their position at all. I agree that there is a potential for abuse, but I think I'm with you on this one, that as Americans, we don't have this kind of protection. And President Trump said he's going to immediately sign the bill when it gets to his desk. And it was actually kind of a pet project of the First Lady.
I don't doubt it. I'm sure she was heavily affected by it doesn't surprise me that there's a lot of bipartisan support. And I think the EFF is doing a great job of keeping an eye on how this will be abused. And honestly, like, I hope they continue to do that, because I'm sure there will be need to be legal challenges for overreach and the like. So, but as I said, my gut instinct is we need something. We're completely. we're
Right.
out here going, is anybody going to do anything about any of this? So
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, all right, great. So let's see what happens.
We'll roll the dice on this one.
Well, I guess. Goodness gracious. All right. Well, thank you, Joe. That really great story, and thank you for highlighting something that's so important and is. I guess we'll see really how this goes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see. Thank you for highlighting. This is a good one, and we'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
So let's return to our sponsor, ThreatLocker. ThreatLocker is a zero-trust endpoint protection platform that strengthens your infrastructure from the ground up. Where traditional cybersecurity tools require you to create a list of things you don't want to run, ThreatLocker enables you to easily curate an allow list of everything you need in your environment and network, and block everything else by default. With ThreatLocker allow listing and ring fencing, you gain a more secure approach to blocking exploits of known and unknown vulnerabilities. ThreatLocker provides zero-trust control at the kernel level that enables you to allow everything you need and block everything else, including ransomware. The ThreatLocker Zero-Trust Endpoint Protection Platform deploys in a learning mode that analyzes the operations of your company using machine learning to assist you in developing your allow list for approved applications, what they can do on the endpoint, what can interact with your data, and even east and west network traffic. We thank ThreatLocker for sponsoring our show.
And we're back, and now it is time for Catch of the Day. Joe, what do we have?
Catch of the day today comes from Rick, who said he got this email from, well, I don't know, someone YG is their initials, but it's pretending to be a message from Harbor Freight, and Rick noted that it was capitalizing on the tariff deadlines.
Oh, oh my! I'm sure you've also gotten a gajillion emails about this. I know I have. So
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Yep.
Right. So I don't know. How do you want to do this? You want to
because there's a bunch of screen caps here. How do you want to describe these different screen caps? Can you describe what's going? Maybe let's go through each image. So
okay.
The first one is of a contact that looks like it's been created. I don't know how they received this, but
it's this. Isn't this how this goes on iPhones? This looks like it's from an iPhone. I don't know.
It is. It is definitely an iPhone. Yep.
Okay. I have an iPhone. I really don't like using it, but it looks like an email that's from that says it's from YG. That's the contact initials, and I guess that's for your Harbor Freight gift is inside. But the interesting thing is that the email address is like newsletter.czd@ihrog.www. And I mean, so really long. Immediately, I've lost interest in this if it's coming to me, right?
Yep.
But then the next image that Rick sends along is a picture of the email, and it's got a flyer that looks like it's a survey about Harbor Freight. Answer and win. You've been chosen to receive a new Icon Core Master tool set, and big black letters at the top says, "Warning: prices increase at midnight."
Oh my gosh!
And then it's got this picture of this tool set that I'm really interested in. Actually, this is one of those things that might work on me because
don't get hooked. Yeah, don't get hooked. Don't get hooked.
there's a lot of tools here. I mean, I have some of them, but I don't have all of them.
Gotta catch them all. Yeah.
It says, click here to claim. And when you go inside, there is another picture of the tools. And it says, Dear Harbor Freight customer, complete a quick survey for a chance to receive the Icon Core Master Toolset. Tell us about your experience with Harbor Freight and enter to win this exciting reward. Rewards are limited, so don't miss out. Attention.
Urgency.
This survey expires today, which was April 25th, 2025. So a couple of things about this.
And there's a countdown at the bottom, I see.
Yeah, there's a countdown at the bottom that says 5 hours and 52 minutes left. You better hurry. couple things. Whenever I hear, supplies are limited, I immediately go to that episode of The Simpsons where Homer is ordering the microphone, the radio microphone for Bart for his birthday. Are you familiar with this episode?
My goodness. It's I don't, nothing
way early in the series, but yeah.
Earlier in the series is what I'm more familiar with, but it has been a while since I've watched The Simpsons. So refresh my memory.
It's a parody of the Mr. Microphone from the 70s and 80s commercial. You used to be able to buy this microphone. It would broadcast on AM and low power, and then it would come through your stereo, and you could hear nothing but feedback for the low cost of $19.99 or something like that.
Wow, what a deal!
But Homer's watching this TV commercial, and it's just ridiculous, right? And at the end, it says, "Act now, supplies are limited." And Homer goes, "Limited?" and lunges for the phone and starts dialing, right? I think of that every time I hear somebody say supplies are limited. I think, is that really the thing that gets people to act now? Supplies are limited. If you sell out of these things in 5 minutes, you're going to make more, right? Because you're going to want to do that again. Trust me.
No,
I know how businesses work. Right. Supplies are effectively unlimited.
Amounts of this.
in modern economic terms, you're not talking about gold here, right? These are all tools made out of iron. The earth is like something like 80% iron. Supply is not limited. Don't tell me supplies are, but actually free supplies are probably limited. I think that Rick is right that they're trying to capitalize on the fear of tariff increases, but I don't know how they're trying to get that with the prices increase at midnight for your free tool set.
The price increases from free to
right,
the price
to whatever
increases
the
from
tariff
free
is.
To not free. Yeah. I don't know.
That's an infinite increase in price.
It's not real. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't make sense. This is probably one of those survey things that just steal your information, or it's just for some click farm or something. I don't know. All these things are really scammy. And I'll admit that early in my days of using the internet, I fell into one of these survey things.
Oh, I totally did too. I was just thinking that. I'm like, I absolutely did stuff like this especially when I was really hard up for money.
Ooh,
oh yeah.
I want people. I never got any money out of it. I never got gift cards out of it.
I never did either, but I was like, but if I could win a free thing, yeah, absolutely.
Right. So,
that's probably why my information is in every breach known to humankind.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably
mine too.
Half of it's me giving it away by accident on surveys. So, that's my fault.
Yeah. Don't take online surveys.
No, don't.
Again, don't.
Don't. Yeah, definitely don't do it. Yeah, or those apps where they're like, you get a free version of this app instead of the paid one if you just do a whole bunch of surveys. Like, don't do that either.
Pay for it.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, that's a great catch. Appreciate it, Joe. That was a nice one. I like it.
Yeah, thank you, Rick, for sending it in.
And of course, we want to thank this week's sponsor, ThreatLocker. Go to threatlocker.com/HH and check out their Zero Trust Endpoint Protection Platform. That's the words threat and locker with no space.com/HH, where you can request a demo and neutralize the threat of malware running on your devices.
All right, and that is Hacking Humans, brought to you by N2K Cyberwire. We would love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like the show, please share a rating and review in your podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to hackinghumans@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K Cyberwire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your teams smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. This episode is produced by Liz Stokes. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. We're mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester. Peter Kilpie is our publisher, and I'm Maria Varmazes.
And I'm Joe Kerrigan.
Thanks for listening.